This video is powered by As Always Entertainment. If you enjoyed this content, consider becoming a patron over on patreon.com/asalways for access to the Patreon exclusive podcast, The Kill Connor Clubhouse, early access to the Cinema Room podcast, being part of polls for future videos, and other early access material. With that said, please enjoy the video. We get so many games these days, so many, and the ones we truly remember, the ones we take with us for years upon years later, are few and far between. Sure, you can enjoy plenty of games every year, but those truly special ones, the ones that speak to us on a more emotional level, the ones that push the industry forward, the ones that care about the fans of the series and do everything in their power to make it one of the best the art form can be, are few and far between. A majority of my time is spent playing video games, whether that be for videos or streams or just for fun. It's a huge part of my life, it always has been. Anticipation for new games these days, for me personally, is never very high. Life moves quickly, new games come and go, and I never seem to find time to be genuinely excited for something coming. The exception to that was Red Dead Redemption 2. I loved Red Dead Redemption. I still do, of course. It was one of my all-time favourite games and my favourite video game story for such a long time. The world, the characters, the storyline itself, the blending of pieces of music with important story moments to elevate everything, the exploration, the attention to detail, performances, and every little thing in between. I adore Red Dead Redemption. The attachment that I have for this game was just so special. Every time I play it, it takes me back to 2010, sitting in front of my Xbox 360, absolutely losing myself in this game world. So when Red Dead Redemption 2 got announced, it was a dream come true. The first game in such a long time that made me feel like a kid again, waiting months, years for this to release in anticipation of returning to a world and a story that I hold so very dear. Red Dead Redemption, to me, is the pinnacle of the art form that is video games.
When the time comes, you go.
What about loyalty to everything?
I wish things were different. But it wasn't us who changed.
You're my brother.
I know.
Stepping into Red Dead Redemption 2 for the first time was magical, I think, is the only word I can really use to describe it. It felt just like Red Dead. I felt like I was returning home after being away for years. Everything had slightly changed. Maybe the next door neighbors had moved out, or your parents had refurbished the driveway, but it was still home. The way it doesn't spend too much time on the intro, I think, is one of the strong points. It drops you right back into this world. You take control of Arthur, the map shows up, you're walking through the snow, talking to Dutch, and it's fucking Red Dead. It's been 8 years. How am I playing this right now? It doesn't feel real. It feels like a dream, but it's real. That's how this felt. They don't waste time building up to it. You're just back. Honestly, the only other time I think I felt this way is in playing every new Ezio game that released for Assassin's Creed back in the day. This returned to what felt like home. It's a very warm, nostalgic feeling. I actually made a video about that with regards to Assassin's Creed, which I'll link on a card if you want. I've seen a lot of people state that we should have seen this robbery that went wrong, but I totally disagree. We don't need to see that. Where it starts us off is perfectly Red Dead. If we see the robbery and we see what happened, we already formulate our opinions on all of the characters. Because we don't know the exact events, we have to assume what's being said is what happened. We get different takes on the events from different people. It gives a sense of mystery for a start, meaning over the course of the game, we can slowly unravel maybe what actually happened on that boat. But also, it gives us time to learn each of these characters' motivations in a more stable and controlled environment, and then let everything loose as we progress, which I think is masterfully done. It achieves so many things by actually doing so little. I think the moment that really solidified that this is a game that cares deeply about its narrative, characters, and about its fans was when you first find John on that snowy mountain, and as you place him on your back, it very simply plays the theme from the first game.
Well, we can't go back the way we came.
And that's when I knew, okay, that's it. They know exactly what they're doing. As much as I'd love to sit and break down the entire narrative of this game, which, to be fair, I kinda did in my original narrative analysis, which, again, I'll link on a card. But this game is story. I mean, nobody's playing Red Dead Redemption 2 for the gunplay, which I know gets a lot of complaints, but personally I don't really see an issue. The main point being, though, the focus of this game and of the first one is the story, but it's woven so perfectly in this vast open world for you to explore and enjoy in your own time, and Red Dead Redemption 2 does this in a way that makes it feel effortless despite knowing it's the complete opposite. You don't get games of this caliber without sacrifice and hard work. I've picked up the game again recently, streamed it a little bit too, just to revisit this world and experience it again as somewhat of a refresher, and my god, going back, it just feels like I'm experiencing it all over again. Just riding through towns, interacting with physically anyone in whatever manner you choose. Just living in this world is fun. That's when you know for sure that you have a killer open world game where you can spend hours not touching missions, purely exploring, taking care of your horse, talking to people, encountering things, finding mysteries, changing clothes, hunting. It's just so special. Let me share with you something that really sticks in my mind from when I first played this game. I remember I was a few hours in, and I'd had the same horse since the very start. I decided it was time to change things up. I wanted to find a rare horse. I can't remember if it was in-game or if I googled it, but regardless, I found that the fastest horse in the game was called an Arabian, and I then found that it was located in the snowy mountain area of the game. So I stopped off in Valentine, had a bath, rented a room, then set off in the morning to the mountains. I rode up to the mountains, and as it got snowier, I decided to set up camp. I took some time to rest, changed my outfit to a more appropriate one for the climate, and then continued into the snow. I trekked on, and finally found the rare snowy white Arabian. I took my time to approach and eventually broke the girl and took her back down to Valentine to be cleaned up and ready for a saddle. I then rented a room for the night and rested, ready for my next adventure the following day. That entire process took me maybe 40 to 45 minutes, and none of it was scripted. It was all me using the tools in the game to immerse myself in this world, to create a storyline of my own, one in which I was searching for a horse, one where I had to take shelter because of the cold, one where I felt I was truly living in this world, and that's what open world games should strive for, true escapism, in a way no other piece of media can achieve, allowing the player to truly feel as if they're in this world and they can live in it. Like I said, this game nails the ability for the player to engage in no missions for hours and yet feel as if you're doing something that is an experience to you. And there's not many games that can accomplish what Red Dead Redemption 2 has done with its open world. It's more than a video game at points, it's a simulated world, and it's truly marvelous. There is so much to this game that I truly could ramble on all day. There's so many big things and so many minuscule things that I absolutely adore. But to touch again on story, a huge part of the Red Dead Redemption series is the story, and like I mentioned, this game understood that perfectly and did exactly what it needed to do. I will never forget the ending of Chapter 6. When everything comes to a head. Finally, we've reached this point of development, this bond that's grown between John Marston and Arthur Morgan, and the passing of the torch after Dutch has completely given into this madness that's been growing on him over the course of the game. Arthur passing his hat to John, and in doing so, symbolically passing on his ideals, his merits to John. And we see, of course, that John upholds everything Arthur believed in Red Dead Redemption 1, which makes everything John says, everything he does in that first game mean so much more because we know he learned a lot from Arthur. It's crazy how Arthur in Red Dead Redemption 2 is almost written to sound like John sounds in Red Dead Redemption 1, purely because it gives that effect that John, after losing Arthur, really took a lot of inspiration from him. He molded himself around who Arthur was until he was this combination of himself and of Arthur to truly make him the strong individual that we see in Red Dead Redemption 1. It's masterfully done, but back to the point, the emotions I felt after we see Arthur die and then take control of John was just, I can't explain it. John Marston is such an important character to me. I've loved him for 8 years, well, 9 now. He's up there with iconic characters like the Master Chief, Ezio, Kratos. You know, the ones that when they're on screen you just get all giddy seeing them. For me, John Marston is one of those characters. He's just part of my childhood, and I remember thinking in the build-up to this game that if we're not playing as John, then what's the point? And in that moment where we finally take control of John, I've never felt more conflicted over fictional characters in my life. I was finally getting what I wanted, playing as John Marston again in a Red Dead Redemption game 8 years later. It was incredible, it felt surreal, but at the same time, I felt genuine grief after losing Arthur Morgan. I honestly felt as if I were mourning a real person, but he's not real. I remember pausing the game for probably 3 to 5 minutes and just collecting myself, like, the fuck is wrong with me? Get it together, man, it's not real. But it felt so real, and that's one hell of a feat. I felt this attachment to Arthur and to John, and so this passing of the torch truly felt like a passing of the torch. I love John Marston, and playing as him 8 years later felt like a dream, but the fact that Arthur was gone, this guy who I'd come to love so much, this guy who I felt for, I could sympathize with and wanted to win, had effectively lost. I had to do my best now as John to live up to Arthur's expectations the same way John did narratively, which is crazy. The choices I make as John, even in the open world, aren't flippant. I catch myself thinking, well, what would Arthur want? And that's very special. And I mean, there are so many other moments, such as John donning his classic Red Dead attire and it playing that piece of music. The final mission, American Venom, with that incredible soundtrack and emotional weight to your actions. This game is second to none, in my opinion. For sure, there are plenty of great games, The Witcher 3, God of War, but Red Dead Redemption has such a place in my heart that Red Dead Redemption 2 doing what it did, not only with the story, but with every other aspect of its design, is why this game is my very top. It's my favorite game, it's my favorite fictional story of all time. This game is a representation of video games in its purest form. Art. This game is passion. This game is heart. This game is striving for something more than you even need to, but doing it anyway because you fucking care. Thank you, Rockstar Games. Thank you so much for this. I will never forget it, and it will always stick with me. Red Dead Redemption 2 is more than just entertainment media. It's something else entirely. It speaks to you on a different level, from the heart. It has lessons to teach. It has emotional walls to break down, and it has raised the bar considerably for what makes the best of the best open worlds in video games. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to drop a like, don't forget to subscribe, check out some of the other content I have on my channel. I want to say a big thank you to our Patreon producers, King Richard III, Smexy Dork, Elsterco91, HBars12, I Got Big Shoes, Seth, and Josh Devillier. Thank you all so very much for supporting me. You can join them as well if you want over at the link in the description, patreon.com/as always for exclusive content, but it's completely up to you if that's something you feel you would like to invest in. It would help support this channel as well as you getting access to other things, but like I said, totally up to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time, boys. Bye-bye.